Okay, Mo. Now I'm sure there's people watching this just like me, wishing we could do about 20 parts because I'm sure we could easily fill them. But this has got to be the last one.
Right.
So we're going to start with this. You retired now in 2016 as a
Yes.
professional bookmaker.
Yeah.
Are you still involved in the game at all? And if so, in what capacity?
Not at all. And I would like to also take this opportunity. The name of my company was Morris Charge Limited. The the betting shop was known as Sports Bookmakers, trading under Morris Charge Limited. Well, the person who took it over, who I actually gave it to, believe it or not, just to get out the lease and make sure the staff had their contracts, he's kept the Morris Charge Limited. So lots of people think I'm still involved, which I assure you I'm not. And because of the complications of the setup with the Gambling Commission at the moment, to change the limited company name would entail a huge amount of time and, more importantly, expense. So first off, Morris Charge is not a layer player. Well, I'm a player, but I'm not a layer. I'm not involved in that anymore. But yes, I am. And believe it or not, this is going to sound a most obscure story. When I obviously had some spinal issues and some other issues, and a friend of mine who was I think I told you, the racing editor at the Daily Telegraph, came to visit me, and we used to play rugby together in our youth. We went to the same school together. He came to see me, and I lived fairly remote in them days, and he bought me some cakes. And we hadn't seen each other for several years at that time because he'd had his son and moved away. And he had heard about my issues. And so we sat down and had a good chat. And we've built up such a strong friendship now. But after a few weeks, he said to me, Mo, would you fancy having a go? He said, I still do the Marlborough tips. But he said, you pick a meeting and you go through the card as well. And whoever selects the most winners on a pound per stake unit will buy the cakes the next week, you see. He used to visit me weekly. Yeah, that's a good idea, Kevin. Great idea. Simon, I assure you, I mean, I was still in business when he came over. This was 2011, 2012. I've stood horses for my maximum payout. I'm watching it. I couldn't give a monkeys about it. I'm looking at Kevin's cake selection against my selection. And that is the gospel truth. To this day, the cake challenge, we've got a trophy. We had a trophy made, and we still do it every week. Kevin's wife, Kevin's been retired 3 or 4 years now. Kevin's wife tells me that he does throw biros across the room, staplers across the room on the cake challenge. Sadly, last year I lost it, and so the trophy isn't behind me where it is normally kept. And I used to keep, during the COVID and the madness period, I had raging toothache one day and I pulled my own tooth out. And that tooth was in the cup. I'm not going to show you a tooth. The tooth is still there, less the cup. But I'm just glancing over because this year I'm 16-14 in front. So and there were 6 draws. So the battle is on. So yes, I'm involved in that sense. It's interesting. I have lots of people phoning from the horse racing community. I cannot tell you how passionate and how much debt I owe the horse racing community. Since I got taken poorly, the friendship and the help that's been given me from the horse racing community just is beyond anything else, I assure you. Another one of my hobbies was Freemasonry. I was a member of lots of different side orders. They were good, and I've been honoured to be made an honorary member of some of them. But horse racing was head and shoulders above anything else. When I used to do I still do occasionally now, try to raise money for certain charities. Amazes me how horse racing people I know are far more generous, not so much financially, but with their times or gifts or goods. Oh yeah, put up a tour around my yard. Oh yeah, I'll give them a tour around the stud. I'll do this, I'll do that. They are superb, absolutely superb. And so consequently, I'm indebted a huge amount to the horse racing. And I just feel that I want to put something back to horse racing because I owe that so much. Whether it's back in a few winners or not, I don't know. But the way forward for the sport, we'll see what happens. Sadly, there's too many cogs in the mechanism, and you cannot get one single leader. The best leader we've had in the recent years was Nick Rust. He was approachable. He went to visit people. I'll ask anybody in the industry, can you name me the last 10 BHA leaders? And can you also name, did you see them anywhere apart from in a box? And you didn't. And we need to go forward, but that road is going to be a bumpy road. It's all media rights money and that kind of stuff now, to the detriment. And I just hope we don't follow the path that greyhound racing did. The GRA were incredibly wealthy from the 1930s onwards. The directors' dividends were almost annually enough to buy houses and things like this. No reinvestment, no forethought. When the money rolls in, nobody asks how. And I think that's how racing's going at the moment. And something will break. I hope I'm wrong. And I hope that we don't go down the road that greyhound racing's gone. For me, once again, I owe it so much. And I am indebted and will always be indebted to horse racing.
Are you a form student?
Yes, not a form student. My strong bias, I'm in this room at 5:30 every morning. I have the Racing Post online. And when I look through the cards, I look at the trainers. I don't look at anything else apart from trainers. I'm a great trainer believer that certain trainers I avoid. And there's some of them are fairly big names. My close friends know who they are, and I wouldn't be abusive enough to name them. And I'm proved right. They're at very short prices for wrong reasons. And so that is my first. And then I look times Kevin, who I mentioned earlier, he had his own private handicap rating system. He's retired now. Never gambled, Kevin, from the day his son was born. His son's in his 30s now. He still does it as a hobby, mainly for the cake challenge on a Saturday, of course. But he sends me his figures every day, and I find them a huge help.
He loads the gun that...
Yes. I think, though, when he sends me the figures for the cake challenge, I think he jiggles the figures around.
Would you still be privy to some lively information?
If I am, it tends to be... I still have trainers, ex-jockeys, phone me. So I was in the day when jockeys phoned me from the weighing room to have a bet. I mean, it seems ridiculous now. And then when they banned jockeys using mobile phones, I had a valet who used to phone me.
Were they any good? Because most people say don't listen to jockeys, don't they?
I was going to say, there was only 3 that made regular profits.
You better not say who they are.
Oh, certainly. And then, of course, they banned valets having phones. You're going to find this possibly hard to believe. I had a stalls handler. He used to phone up, and then the ban hit them about 6 weeks later. They weren't allowed phones.
Before we finish, tell me the story that you were telling me in the car about the eyes.
Yes, one of my clients, Peter Filmer, and I will name him because he was a gentleman, nothing bad about him, but I just couldn't beat him. And I could not see what angle he was coming from. There was no consistency with jockeys, trainers, particular tracks, anything at all. There was nothing. And I asked him one day, look, Peter, how on earth did you find that last winner that you had with me? And so he told me that he's got a special pair of binoculars, and he goes to the pre-parade ring at the track. He won't go to the parade ring. It has to be the pre-parade ring, and look in their eyes. Now, first of all, I thought he's obviously telling me a big old yarn here. And then one day there was a trainer that I used to put bets on for occasionally. He had a horse running, and Peter phoned up and backed this horse, and it drifted from 8s out to 14s. Dotted up, absolutely dotted up. So I said to the trainer afterwards, the following day, I said, Christ, are you sure you didn't play? He said, no, I definitely didn't play it, Mo, definitely. So when I spoke to Peter Filmer, he said, well, I'll arrange to meet you at Windsor one night, And so I went down to meet him, but some of my clients had runners that night. Being the social aspect, I was on the drink with them in the champagne bar. Mobile phones were in their infancy. I'd left mine in the car. It was as big as a house brick. And got on the drink with my clients. Completely forgot all about meeting Peter Filmer. When I get back to my car, the phone had lots of missed calls, and he was there waiting for me to join him, looking at horses in the pre-parade ring and what he looks for. He said to me, I don't let anybody touch the binoculars. So you won't be able to look for the binoculars, but I'll tell you that this one's all right or this one isn't. Irrelevant. He wouldn't even worry about the cloth number. He wouldn't even worry about anything else at all, how they looked. It just had to be the eyes. And in the end, sadly, I had to stop him because I just could not. He would have many bets in the course of a day, maybe 7, 8 bets, 2 in a race or something. I was just getting it all wrong. I couldn't follow him carte blanche for the stakes he was playing and the outlay. But he was a gentleman, and yes, he was one that is a head scratcher for me to this day, and I so regret that I never took that opportunity. And I was more worried about getting a bottle of champagne down my throat.
Now, before we end this, a little bit about you were quite an athlete back in the day.
Yes, in my day, I was All England Junior Shot Put champion. I started off, my first sporting club I went to when I was about 8 was a boxing club. And after a couple of years, the chap who ran it said to my father, look, Mo's never going to make a boxer. He said he just wants to throw them out the ring. Yes. And that was very similar to my cricketing ability. Every ball had to go for a 6. So I got into athletics, and I was lucky enough to be successful at the athletics. I ended up having the same trainer as Jeff Capes. I trained with Jeff a few times. I was sponsored by Dewhurst Butchers. I got illegally paid once. It was in the days of the old Amateur Athletics Association. And Golden Wonder sponsored a meeting, and it was going to be shown at midweek grandstand as we had it in those days. They wouldn't have shown me. They showed Jeff throwing, but not me, because I was way down the list. And when I checked in, they gave you had to hand over an expense sheet, which I did, and they gave me the money for the expenses, and then they gave me this brown envelope. Naivety. I was about 70. I was driving then, so it was 17, 18. And lo and behold, I came to the changing room, opened it up, and I had a £5 in there, which was probably about a day and a half's take-home pay for me at that time. And this is fantastic. But I looked around some of the other athletes, theirs were quite thick, the internationals, and it was reputed that 2 or 3 up from me was Jeff, and his had 500 in. That I can't confirm, but I know I had a £5 and I was thrilled with that. So the athletics, unfortunately, what I missed out a lot on as a teenager, mid-teenager, I was a good drinker, but the opposite sex wasn't on the back burner, but it's something, and that started overtaking the athletic side of things. And so I had a lot of time to catch up. And so, yes, I had very good time, and I was in the same team as Sebastian Coe one day, Southern Counties A versus Southern Counties B versus Wales, and I was in Southern Counties A. Threw against Daley Thompson a few times. I used to speak to him a few times as well. I kept myself to myself though. I wasn't a great team person. I played rugby for the county of Hertfordshire at schoolboy level and at the senior schoolboy level. Something about team sports. I've played in many rugby matches where we've won, and yet I'll be despondent purely because I felt I didn't play well. In the athletics, I won Performance of the Day award down at Brighton and Hove, and I didn't collect the trophy. I went home early because I felt that performance I threw was pretty poor for me. So, yes, I've been quite narrow-minded in one way.
Well, that competitive nature is probably what's seen you through to the top of the
It probably
bookmaking
has,
game.
and I had a couple of years at the para-athletic movement, which are fantastic. Those guys are the top of the trees, and without doubt, my heroes, complete and utter heroes. I threw in some of the British Grand Prix. I did end up number 1 in my class. I got selected for the Cerebral Palsy World Games, which I declined purely because I haven't got cerebral palsy, and those guys I owe so much to. If anybody ever feels that their luck's a bit poor or things aren't going their way, go to one of the cerebral palsy meetings or go to one of the British Grand Prix at Stoke Mandeville, and then come away and say, oh, my luck's poor. Them guys are tough. They are so tough. I'll take them horse racing. I've taken 3 of the lads several times horse racing. Yeah, they are my heroes without any question of doubt. So that was my sporting life as such. But now I still work out, but I still eat too much chocolate. And the last thing, an ambition of mine, is to get Ben and Jerry knighted.
Well, brilliant. So on that note, Mo Charge, thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. I feel flattered.